The girl shuddered while the guy said that he wanted to meet her somehow. And this moment came. Liana immediately found out about the secondary character of the book, because it was he who helped Dorian escape from prison. The girl looked at the guard, and Grrrr said that she looks very tense, asking to relax. A lot of security went on a business trip with the overseer, so there is almost no surveillance for a walk. He was surprised that she was shugging him, explaining that the head of their corps personally selects people who can be left. Cutting himself with an index finger on the forehead, the guy added that therefore only adequate people can be chosen. Before that, he saw her only from afar. By the way, he really liked watching a person's training. Liana was suspicious to keep him a distance, answering that she was not available for other buildings. Grrrr said that he did not want to disclose this, but recently he fled from prison for a while, and then he saw. In the novel, Grrrr was not just a left-handed man that he helped Dorian escape. His role was much more. He was his right hand and a faithful assistant who pretended to be a criminal exclusively for the accomplishment of the plan. But first of all, he is the supreme mage from the Genrix, who was here on a special task. The guy said that he was sincerely interested in her when he saw that strange young man, and in fact, he is a sorcerer. He suggested that she knows about the tendency of sorcerers to pay attention to various curious things for them. Liana asked, "Are not the magicians in a separate prison? And if he is true a magician, he would not have a torn about it." At that very moment, Grrrr leaned toward her and asked her whisper why he would not. Because no one except her knows this. From this second, the guard will not remember anything that happened in the last 5 minutes, because he took care of them. He will simply tell her something fun about the prisoner, about which she experiences and spends time with him. Looking at him, Liana thought that the novel described that the character of this person was not as simple as it seems. Grrrr said that there is a curse that turns him into a beast. It is old. Ordinary people did not even hear about this. The few know about the curse of the family of Henry. It is clear why he explains to her, but she already knows everything about it. The girl decided to take interest mentally asks why he tells her about it. Grrrr added that when he becomes an animal, he could not say a word like a human, and this is inconvenient. So he often gives awakening to those who suffer from such curses as a temporary measure of treatment. Naturally, he takes responsibility for this. Liana asked why she had this information. The guy realized that she was interested. He continued, saying that based on his long observations, her prisoner had not yet awakened to the end. If nothing is done, he will sow chaos on a permanent basis by turning into a monster without realizing it. Then the girl realized that he could not talk normally, not because of a long stay outside the society, but in the book, even in the guise of a monster, but still spoke human language. Perhaps this is because of Grrrr. The girl asked what he wants from her, because she doubts that he came to just talk about Dorian's diagnosis. The guy replied that he was a curious girl, and he wants her to satisfy his magical interest. Grrrr answered with a smile in the affirmative, adding that he is a magician, that he knows the medicine for the awakening of Dorian, and she is the one who should feed this medicine for the animal. Liana was dumbfounded and at the same time did not understand anything. He had not studied anything for so long that his hands were itching. At the same second, a ball of energy began to be created in his hands. Liana frowned, thinking that he was saying so, but he needed the spell to come to Dorian. However, now she did not understand why because she was sure that he had a lot of opportunities without it. The girl did not believe that the point was only that she was the most affordable option that would not refuse him help. And he was strangely aggressive, and she did not like it. So she asked why she would do this. Leaning closer, the guy whispered with a smile that then he could fulfill any request in return. The opportunity to enlist the help of a magician appears infrequently. A good magic spell is now worth its weight in gold. The girl thought that the deal is tempting, but whether she could really use this spell someday. She is sure that as soon as she leaves the prison, she will heal without worries and problems. So she decided to abandon the offer. But Grrrr asked to imagine how Dorian would stop eating from the floor, and in general, he would cease to cause problems. She realized that he could refuse me, and the guy explained what was needed for this spell to fall directly into it. He will lay him in the carrier, which she will have to feed him. Touching the prisoner, he is activated. Then he asked if she could give him a hand, after which he apologized, because they needed to come in touch for a short while. Liana was a little embarrassed and excited, said that he had prepared in advance, and he was sure that she would agree. Before the girl decided to ask a question, Grrrr replied that she realized this by a simple analysis method. When he finished, a seal appeared on her wrist. He added that the spell should be activated at night. Liana asked how she would do this, because not in her powers to be freely paced around the prison at night. Grrrr laughed, after which he asked her not to worry, because about this, he also thought everything in advance. After that, he put a bracelet into her hand, saying that she could calmly use this magical bracelet. He explained that this was his gift, and the girl asked how exactly he could help her in this complex business. Pointing to the wrist, Liana decided, just in case, to clarify whether this would hurt the prisoner directly. Grrrr replied that nothing was wrong. A sharp jump in growth can simply be observed, but after a while everything will return. Suddenly, he turned sharply, stated that he was already time, after which he added that they would still be seen. That same evening, being in her cell, the girl slowly rose from the bed, telling herself that she almost fell asleep. She understood that it was time to try to help their sleeping beauty to free him from the curse. She thought she loves to sleep very much. Even if someone decides to kidnap her during sleep, she would not wake up. So, if she needs to go somewhere late at night or early in the morning, then in principle, she does not go to bed. Earlier, she found out that the camera is guarded at night, but there is less security here than in the center. Hans added that this is a secret, but in the morning, there is almost no guard at all, since almost everyone is sleeping at this time. It was natural, because the nobles were accustomed to acting until late and sleep exclusively in the daytime. Since there are no secular evenings in prison, they lie down early, but they wake up anyway late, then the guard is resting. There are 5 guards as much as possible here, but usually there are 4 of them, so you should use the bracelet at once. Grrrr gave her 3 spells, and the first was the invisibility spell, and the second was to open the locked doors. Now Liana was invisible and looked at 2 guards who walked calmly in her direction. Suddenly, one of them asked if he had heard something else now, but then he was sure that he made a sound. The colleague asked to stop breathing so hard, because he was too noisy, which is why something is wrong with them. Covering her mouth with her palm, Liana thought that she was standing right in front of them, but they didn't even see her point blank. The spell makes it so that she sees everything that surrounds her, while the surrounding does not see her at all. Suddenly, she noticed a familiar man, asking herself why, by the way, the overseer returned so early. Now in the capital is a very tense time, so it is not surprising that it is always on the trip. And at the same time, he visits the prison more and more often, but it was not clear why he needed it and what he was achieving. The guard also was terrified interestingly, because of what they asked each other, whether he was hiding treasure here. Noticing Renaga, the girl thought that I had to be very careful so as not to become in his way and not collide. Liana noticed that Hans fell asleep, thought about him that he was a kind and pleasant man, while very calculating. It was he who neglected Dorian when he was wounded. At that very moment he woke up, felt someone else's presence. The girl immediately returned around the corner, a little scared. She hoped that he did not hear her when she was walking. When Liana came close to him, the man began to turn his head and ask if someone here is here. Handing over his hand to him, the girl thought that she had to be careful in using this type of magic. Direct contact may be enough for it to affect you. After which she touched his neck, and he trembled. A second later, the guard was already lying on the floor unconscious, and Liana thought that this part of the plan was successful. The last spell taught by Grrrr taught her, sleep spell, and now she felt a sorceress. But when the girl came close to the Dorian camera, she immediately shuddered when she heard the question of who is here. He did not suddenly spoke to her. She was even scared, although the invisibility spell is still actively. Liana took off her hood, destroying the spell, after which, with a smile, announced that it was she who came to visit him. The guy's stern face immediately softened when he said in surprise that he did not expect to see her at such a later time. Liana asked if he knew what time now. He replied that the sun had already sat down on the inner sensations. If you pay attention, you can understand that he is very smart and intelligent, although she did not immediately notice this. The girl said that she would love to talk with him longer, but you need to rush. It surprised Dorian. Opening a small bag that she brought with her, the girl said that she came here to give him something. Handing around, and she asked him to eat this, and something unusual will happen to him, in good terms. In her palm was a sealed candy that was a gift to Jira. She again asked him to eat it. It is very difficult for an ordinary person to meet a real magician, and the first time he would never believe it. In addition, Jir asked not to disclose Dorian all the details in order to leave a little mystery. Liana said that he would know everything after he eats. Suddenly the guy asked if he could. It immediately agreed. Unable to stand it, the girl asked loudly whether it was not interesting to him what it was and why he was. But he was not worried. Crossing her arms over her chest, she asked how to be so careless, because it was not even in confidence in her. Liana said that he should not just agree to everything that they offer, especially when it comes to food. With an uncertain look, Dorian replied that she herself said that it was safe, but it was not an indicator. Putting his hand on his chest, the guy said that he was sure that she would not harm him, then asked, or cause him. Having a look, Liana asked how he thinks, but still there is no need to trust anyone so blindly. Suppose today she is on your side, but who knows what will happen next time. But now, he needs to eat it. She asked Jira to sweeten her, because after the effect works, burning pain would make itself felt. We can say that she gave the child a candy before an injection. She was not now wondering if it was delicious. Touching his cheeks, the girl mentally asked why he trusts her like that, because it should not be so naive. Now she felt very strange. But now a spell needs to be pronounced in her head so that everything would work. Having pronounced this word, at first nothing happened, when suddenly Doriana pierced some kind of power, because of which he fainted. Liana thought worried that Jir said that only a little would hurt, but now she did not know what to do. It was impossible to call the guard or take an anesthetic as soon as she decided to leave. The guy grabbed her hand. The girl remembered how Gir said with a smile that there was a small side effect, but these are all the little things. However, in fact, everything was far from the case. And now the guy with a completely confident look looked at the Liana. I leaned more closer to her. He asked if she avoids him, and where she was leaving, Liana invited to let go, but to no avail. At that very moment, Dorian, with a predatory gaze, began to gently kiss her palm, simultaneously not taking her eyes off her. Studently looking at the guy, Liana thought in shock that it was more like the main effects than side effects. Now she was sure that this is the Dorian about whom she read in the book, so he would look in 4 years. The girl again asked to let him go, but the guy, deprived of smiling, with a confident look, replied that he would not let her go. Liana did not come up with anything better than taking a bag and telling him that he is a good boy who loves cookies. Dorian completely ignored her proposal, asking what she should be called, because he forgot a little. Why did he remember that he should call her the mistress? Because of which the girl shuddered, answering that it wasn't necessary. Suddenly, she remembered that she really told him this, but she decided to never joke with him again. The girl asked to call her by name, after which she once again introduced herself, which caused a smile on the guy's face. Suddenly, he directed her hand towards the bag so that she took 1 cookies, after which he began to return her to him. Liana realized that he wanted her to feed him with his hands, because of which this picture looked very strange. Suddenly, the girl refused and looked away, explaining that she was painful when he holds her so tightly by the hand. She said that if he wants cookies, then he should let go, because only then she can give him to him. Looking at how pleasure the guy eats cookies from her hands, the girl asked him to stop smiling. Putting her hand to his cheek, Dorian, with malice, asked if he forbids him, because it is too tasty. Frowning, the girl replied that she did not like people who do whatever they please. When the guy let her go, Liana turned away from him, trying to understand what was happening at all and what to do. For seconds, her eyes widened in surprise when she felt that Dorian hugged her from behind tightly. Then he apologized to her, while the girl felt that her back was getting too hot. Suddenly, he said that his body hurts. Liana stated that if something hurts, he had to immediately say this. The smile disappeared from the guy's face when he said that no one had ever cared about him like her. Dorian unexpectedly kissed her on the cheek, asking if this means that this also belongs to him, like cookies. Suddenly, he collapsed again to the floor, and Liana tried to understand why he fainted, and whether it was a side effect. She decided to carefully cover him with a blanket, so that he did not freeze, when she suddenly heard the request not to leave him. The girl could not fulfill this request, instead of which she put an elastic band for hair with a soft ball in her hand. After that, she headed for the exit, with a confident look, deciding that I urgently needed to ask Jira about this. 3 days later, the day passed from the moment Doriana was awakened. The walk and visit came to an end. The point was that new shackles were tested on it, because of which access was closed to him for some time. Nearby, the standing guard asked if she was in order, because it doesn't look, after which he offered to go to the infirmary. Her face was red due to the fact that she remembered that night, but explained this by the fact that she overdid it with charging. The knight did not notice anything suspicious in this, so calmly replied that they would see himself later, and then left. Unable to stand it, Liana lowered her head to her knees, as she could not believe in the reality of the situation. And she can't switch to something else when Jir suddenly approached her, saying that magic was activated. When he asked whether she succeeded, the girl gave him an angry look, seeing only a smile in response. Suddenly grabbing him by the breasts, Liana demanded answers from him why the prisoner became bad after the spell. The guy replied that this happened due to sudden changes. Even ordinary people would feel pain if they suddenly grow. Having grinned, the girl replied that it was easy for him to speak, because he himself does not suffer from this, unlike her. When she began to leave, Gear tried to stop her, saying that he did not want to belittle the significance of the problem. And he cannot tell everything, but what she did is very important for him, so he is very grateful to her. The owner of the prison, which has recently rushed between the prison and the capital, fully returned to work. So she completed the task of increased complexity, because it is for magicians that he poses a particular danger. Then, he asked if everything was so bad for the prisoners. But Liana did not fully understood his question. Then she answered wearily that she had not slept so many nights after the incident, and it was very terrible for her health. Then she asked why he became so huge, and what would happen if he begins to grow even further. After she briefly described what happened that night, Gear asked not to worry, because this is temporary. In general, what happened is an indicator that his body was quickly adapted to magic, and this is a positive side. Liana decided to ask if this would happen in the future. The guy answered with a smile that she was absolutely right. When she walked with the prisoner, he felt in what close relations they were, so his choice fell on her. So, people with such curses are not so easy to trust people, which means that she was good to him earlier. The girl thought about it, but at the same time, the guy decided to ask why she was busy with him at all. After this conversation, when she wandered along the corridor, she caught up with her and called out to Sally, with a clearly worried look. The red-haired girl, out of breath, stated that she wanted to say and there that all the girls were alarmed. When asked why, Sally answered with trepidation that a handsome man who everyone liked it came to someone. Many say that he can't compare even with the most beautiful guard of their prison, the overseer of Yerups. Most likely, he will soon leave, so Sally suggested looking at him with her, because she is very interested. She said that Viscount Aisha, leaving the cafeteria, saw a large black carriage racing to them. Liana immediately realized that black is a guest carriage, while blue was exclusively for criminals. According to her, when she saw who was leaving the carriage, her thought was that she had never seen such a man. Liana knew that Aisha was imprisoned due to a scandal with a nobleman that she was 20 years younger, and her husband sent her here. At that very moment, Sally distracted her from thoughts. With a smile asked if she knows that Aisha is an incredible artist. In general, she drew what she saw, because of which the rest of the ladies were delighted with the appearance of the visitor. Liana asked, was it really so incredible that she heard a loud and confident answer to? Apparently, he is really handsome, since such a sophisticated person as Aisha personally drew him. A friend again asked her to go with her and see, but Liana could not refuse her since she wanted it so much. At that very moment, Jason ran to them, a personal guard of Liana, who asked the girl to go with him. He explained that the overseer wanted to see her. The girl did not understand what he needed from her at such a time. Turning to her friend, she said that it would not be possible to go together, after which she was awkwardly apologized. But she understood everything. When he and the knight walked along the corridor, Liana suggested that her brother once again sent her something. Indeed, on the other hand, why else he can call her, except to present the next gifts sent by his brother. They turned into the head. She was surprised to notice the crowd of girls who were chewing loudly among themselves. She decided to directly ask the guard why there are so many people. He sighed before answering. She already knows about their ghost. Apparently, he is there. This is not the last person in status, but he does not know details. Jason smiled and said that it was too noisy, offering to go the other way. Liana immediately agreed. She noticed a black suit on a guest, thought it was a guy about whom Sally spoke, but his face was not visible. When they entered the building, another knight suddenly ran to them, asking Jason to urgently run after him. The shocked man asked for forgiveness from Liana, after which he asked if she could wait for him here for a couple of minutes. He also politely asked not to say look about her, about what she had heard now. The girl replied that she would be silent. When she was left alone in the corridor, she immediately heard someone's steps, but, turning sharply, she did not notice anyone. She definitely felt someone else's presence, when suddenly behind her, a male voice greeted her, naming by name. Liana turned around again, but there was no one behind, and it frightened her. But she did not show her. She tried to understand what had just been, because it seems she just heard someone just behind herself. At that very moment, the out of breath, Jason fled to her, apologizing for making her to wait so long. Liana decided that it still seemed to her, while not far from her, stood a chaise with a sweet smile on her face. The little wizard, who stood near his legs, with an indifferent look, asked why he did not want to talk to her. The brunette closed his eyes, and we will answer that now is simply not the time, because she needs to stay here for some more time. When asked by the wizard whether he did not want to, Chasir replied that it would still be seen with her very soon. Probably it would be more correct to say, he will still reunite with her soon, because this is what he wants. He asked his sister to tolerate a little more, but the girl, which went far, could not hear him. Before that, Jir asked why she was busy with him. For him, he is excellent material for research. But what goals she has? Liana thought that she was just sorry for him, but she decided not to talk about it, saying only that he was a handsome man. Geyer was surprised, but asked if she would inform. As his condition, she agreed, but did not know if they would meet again. After all, not so often prisoners from different buildings can go for a walk together, no matter how they want them. In response to this guy, he smiled broadly, reminding that he was a magician, so he has his own ways of communication. While she remembered this, a familiar male voice pulled her into reality, because of which the girl shuddered sharply. Renag asked if she was in order. You answered in the affirmative, not understanding why she remembered the words of Jira. She decided that the Renag could be that silhouette in the corridor, but, having discarded this thought, she asked for forgiveness. Liana said that she heard that he had left the prison for a couple of days. He replied that he decided some business in the capital. She remembered that Jir said that in the capital there was a tense time, so it was not surprising that he was on the trip. Remembering the words of the guards, the girl suggested that maybe he was just comfortable here. Suddenly, Renag said that she must have been saddened, but the girl did not understand what it was about, because everything was in order with her. Liana released cookies from her mouth when the overseer explained that her brother had come, but she was not informed about this. Renag said that he wanted to see her, but he had to urgently leave, because something happened to the estate. In the end, nothing unusual. It is about the family, and her brother does everything so that everything is fine in the family. Thinking, Liana looked down, after which she agreed with the man, still trying to move away from the news. Her family is under the supervision of Dormulit, and the Chaser is far from stupid and capable of various treacherous plans. The only question is, her brother is now under supervision in a good or bad sense. I would like to know this. But she also wondered what his appearance, he probably had the same pink hair as her. Not only doesn't she know how he looks, then the name has not yet been able to find out, which complicates her understanding. Liana wanted to ask how to even meet again, but Renag said that he had left her something. Getting up from his seat, the man handed the girl a huge bouquet of flowers, the aroma of which Liana immediately felt. Suddenly, she noticed jewelry among the buds of jewel, and a letter lurked between the flowers for her beloved younger sister. The brother hoped that a small gift was enough for her to forgive him for the failed meeting. These beautiful roses will never be found, because he knows that the appearance of wilted roses saddens her, but he does not want her to be sad. How rich the Liana family is! If this is a small gift, and whether it is normal to send this to jail at all. Liana asked if she could take them with her. Renag replied that a slight exception to the rules can be made. In addition, these flowers are going too much. But Liana did not hear this phrase, so she decided to ask again. Without waiting for an answer, the girl said that her family did not seem to be starving, because the gift looks not cheap. Renag said that in family affairs everything goes smoothly. Her brother, as always, copes well with all business. He will make no one dares and touch her gift, so she may not worry about his safety. Probably, Renag thought that she was worried that they could steal him, when he suddenly decided to ask her a question. Is it not interesting to her why her brother sent her here? Liana thought she had already thought about it. Only his brother did this. I immediately thought that he must have a special reason to do this. He is not one of those people who do something just like that. It confirms the gift sent to her as a sign of attention. Maybe he acts out of guilt, maybe from some other goals. But now it was very difficult for her to say anything. Having frowned, the overseer said that he sees that she really trusts her brother, even after that. She was surprised when Renag said that, in any case, he is a good person, does not expect such words from a man. Liana thought that he was well acquainted with her brother, perhaps even more than she could assume. You have to be more careful in the conversation, when suddenly she asked herself why Renag so unexpectedly approached her. She said that she trusts him because he was her brother, after which she asked if they were sure to talk so close. At that very moment, Renag pulled away and blushed, covering his face with his hand, after which he politely asked for forgiveness. Liana asked herself why he wears monocles, and then asked him directly whether he had a bad vision. The man was embarrassed and not sure that that was not the point. He just likes how he looks in him. I'm heading for the exit. Liana thought that perhaps relatives asked Renaga to treat her well. But, in her opinion, he himself is kind. Very strange, because in the book he was described at all not such a person. Now even more I want to know what her family is. This question caused her curiosity. Later, sitting in the hall, the Pilatus noticed that she had a too serious expression on her face, and he asked, if something. Liana, looking at the bouquet, replied that she was worried about something. Now for her, it was a rather unusual problem. She said that she has a proposal for him. She will ask a few questions, and he will have to answer, as in the game. Sally suddenly approached them, and with a smile on her face stated that she also wanted to take part. Liana agreed. The girl knew that Sally's social terms is experienced, just like a baron, which means she owns information. She stated that her family is causing some interest, after which he asked if there were guesses, where her parents come from. She asked to guess, but she does not know the answer, although their answers will not be accurate information, but at least some. It seemed to her that she had enough patience to find out everything when she was released. But would it come out at all? If her family is eventually connected with the villain, everything may not end very well, and now she has been worried. She noticed that the faces of the Pilatus and Sally immediately became thoughtful when she mentally asked them to say something. If you need valuable information, perhaps even herself will be able to escape from here, though you will have to hide. The first voice was given by the Pilates, saying that she was the daughter of a family of high status, judging by frequent meetings with the overseer. But at the same time, she was never seen in public, although she was no longer small, so one cannot help but mention Ain't, Liman, and Junda. Sally added that she also thought about them three, but still she doesn't think that not Liman, Maximum Ainty, or Hound. The Pilatus noticed that Countess Ain't from the south, so she has a few dark skin, which is not at all about Liana. The girl also thought about these three, but suggested that she was a daughter of someone higher than these three. Can she ask the overseer to ask anything, because he was paid? And does this mean that her family has a lot of money? There were too many questions, but there were no answers, so she still needs time to figure it out. At that very moment, the guard stated that it was over, and Liana suggested that the answers are the next time. Rising from his place, Sally and the Pilates agreed with her, since now they still do not have time to talk. Walking along the corridor, Liana thought that it was a pity that the time was over. It was boring in the cell, but there was time to think about the urgent. Suddenly, she remembered that there was still a way to get information, but he was much more risky. Having decided to do this, the girl sat down at the desk and picked up the feather, deciding to directly ask her brother about it. She asked her brother to tell how the family was there, after which she thought about going to Dorian, but it was too late. Mentally apologizing to him, she promised that she would come tomorrow, and now she did not know what was happening there. The next day, when Liana went to Dorian to visit him, she was surprised to find two guards. One of the men said that she was mistaken in the place, and the girl thought that she had never seen these guards. Holding a bag in her hand, she apologized, and then asked what happened, because she first sees them. The guard replied that they were the guards of the West Wing. Liana stared at them, because she knew who they were. The place where the criminals who committed the most severe murder, arson or state treason, are determined. All the guards are there, the senior knights, and here was the only entrance leading to the underground zone. All the most dangerous criminals are here, and a few days ago there was a completely penetration here. Right next to the criminal, evidence was found. Hearing this, Liana immediately got excited and sweated. After all, what if they have in mind the hair elastic band that she gave to Dorian during their last meeting? Then it turns out that the violator is she, and now the girl communicates with the guards who can grab her. Dorian is now the only prisoner there, so the place of the Lord Kambraki was specifically provided to the Henry family. The Renaga family always played on the neutral side, driving in generations and not interfering in other people's affairs. However, they agreed to cooperate with the Duke only on the basis of a common danger, so they had no choice. However, as was said earlier, after some time, Renag will leave the idea of neutrality and join Chemise. At that very moment, Liana made a naive face, after which she asked if it could be a certain accident, not a violator. The man replied that a third-party item was discovered with the criminal, which means that the offender was definitely. The girl replied that this was a problem, after which she was almost sure that she was the offender. Without saying anything, she grabbed her head, not believing that this was happening while the man watched her with surprise. She left the blanket in Dorian's cell, which was previously agreed and approved directly by Hans. He said that he would settle it, and she, in turn, needs to keep her mouth on the castle and not tell anyone about it. The borrowing was limited only to this, while she honestly promised not to leave anything there more. But apparently, she was scared and forgot, because if something terrible and irreversible occurs due to her fault, a gaze rushed to the bracelet donated by Jir, after which she decided that time to use this thing. He said that he had improved the bracelet, and now she can take advantage of magic as 4 times. That is, the chance that it will fall into a hopeless situation will decrease many times and increase the chances of success. It will still remain for the use of magic, so it is time for her to check how he is doing and whether he is still alive. She just wanted to check, because she knows that the Western Wing Guards deal with violence every day. Now the girl asked only one question: whether they could do something Dorian in this short time. Perhaps now he is very wounded, and all this through her fault, but she hoped that nothing serious happened to him. Looking around the corner, Liana noticed that, fortunately, there was only one guard who could easily distract. Raising a small pebble from the floor, she threw him forward, to which the surprised knight reacted instantly. The man immediately ran forward, and Liana rushed towards the stairs to go down the floor below. Noticing an empty table, she realized that Hans was not here, after which she discovered Dorian, who immediately recognized her. The girl was surprised that he recognized her, even when she put on a hood, which was sincerely surprised. Liana realized that it came too close when the guy jumped on her, saying that she had a special smell. Suddenly, the girl was deployed, answering that it was pleasant to know that he was glad to her, but it is not necessary to grab her. Suddenly, she decided to ask if he liked her. Dorian literally froze in this question in a stupor. The next second, he blushed sharply and recoiled from her, and Liana with a smile suggested that she had hit the apple. The guy shouted that he did not mean anything vulgar, and the girl was glad that the guy was whole and unharmed. Then she smiled and said that perhaps in the future he will have problems because of her, although this is not a fact. Dorian did not understand what problems was being discussed, but immediately asked if she would come later, and tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow. He added that if she arrives, he would even allow her to hit himself. Liana was surprised by such loud speeches. Suddenly, she asked loudly and displeasedly why she then brought him medicine, not wanting to listen to his excuses. After that, she tiredly crouched next to him, trying to calm down after a small skirmish with Dorian. Suddenly, the guy looked at her and said that she was the best person in this prison, and there are no others. Every day, he can only think about her. Liana was pleased to hear it, especially how he was embarrassed saying it. But suddenly, the guy shouted loudly that when he was thinking about her, his body grows, which sounded very ambiguously. When the girl heard this, a shock froze on her face. She could not believe that Dorian could say that. Having covered her mouth with her hand, Liana thought that she had a lot of questions, but it was uncertain that at least one of them should be voiced. Justifying thoughts, she asked herself to calm down, because she was sure that absolutely everyone has the same demons in her head. The girl assured herself that everything was fine, because if you look at his gaze, then you can't think that he had in mind. At that very moment, Dorian blushed very much, after which he covered his mouth with his hands and asked not to look so closely. Liana thought that she should be on the guillotine for such thoughts, but she asked what he had in mind. The guy uncertainly replied that when he thinks about her, his arms and legs seem to become longer, and even his fingers. When the girl calmed down, she decided to clarify that, roughly speaking, he lengthens when she thinks only of her. Hearing an affirmative answer, she asked if he tried to check if this was really so, or to him. She offered to check the difference in growth before and after, using the wall, making notes on it with a chalk or stone. Dorian looked down and replied that he had not thought of that before that. But Liana said that there was nothing wrong with that. Then she went up to him, after which she stroked her head and said that it was too late and time to go to sleep. Grabbing her by the leg, the guy replied that he did not want, because if she goes to bed, she will disappear again, as always. He added that she would leave, and it is not known when he appears again, but he really wants to be near her now. The guy looked at her with a sweet gaze, after which he began to beg her to stay with him for some time. Liana agreed to stay. I will explain that she definitely needs to leave this place before dawn, and this is not discussed. Then she added that she was still right when she said that he might have problems because of her. The girl asked if he remembers the hair elastic band that she gave him. The guy answered affirmatively. Liana explained that because of her, the guard realized that she had penetrated and put an additional guard. Then her friend stood on guard. It seems that he did not give her out. In the end, they thought about someone else, so she was very lucky. Hans even betrayed her, but probably angry, would tell she would have reported on alcohol and cigarettes that she gave him. In addition, do not forget that she is a special prisoner, so Heinze is doubly better to be silent. Suddenly, Dorian asked her not to blame herself, because something happened before she gave him an elastic band. Then, loneliness was felt much more painful, but now with her, he feels alive. Liana did not understand the meaning of his words. Dorian explained that with her, he did not need to stare at the wall all the time, since now he always thinks about her. And now it has become much easier to wait for her arrival, and therefore he is very glad that he got it elastic band. Liana did not even assume that an ordinary elastic band would gain such a meaning for him, and would also make life easier. It turns out that she was like a glass of water, which appears in front of someone suffering from incredibly strong thirst. She can moisturize her lips, but her thirst will not work. When suddenly she noticed that today he did not turn into a dog. The guy blushed, replied that he did not know why. But this is good, because he wants to be remembered and much more. The girl thought that he still does not know what factors affect his transformation, but you need to find out. At that very moment, the guy began to moan, as if in pain, and the girl looked at him with worriedly, not understanding what was happening. Touching him, she felt that he was all hot, when she suddenly realized that it could be that side effect. Suddenly, Dorian grabbed her hand, after which he greeted her with a smile, and she threw away all doubts. Without releasing her hand, the guy with a smile and not hidden with interest asked what she had prepared for him today. Liana sharply turned out her hand, answering with a displeased look that she had nothing to give him, and she was not his mistress. Understanding that now is the time to leave, the girl rose from the floor, saying that she had to leave for a long time. With a wave of his hand, he asked why she would not lie down here. Hearing this, Liana thought in shock that he had gone crazy. Running out of the camera, she thought that I had to remember that it was necessary to run away as soon as he became ill. Climbing the stairs, Liana thought that I should not forget to use the invisibility spell. Looking around the corner, she noticed that the guards were again at the post, so you need to carefully slip past them. Suddenly, the girl shuddered when she heard steps behind him, and with every second they became closer. Liana stood and did not move, trying to understand what to do in such a situation, because one rustle, and she would be caught immediately. When she decided to snuggle up to the wall, she immediately heard the question in her direction whether she liked the walk. Turning around, she noticed Renaga and tried to understand how he sees her, because she uses the magic of invisibility. The guard has not yet noticed her, and she cannot stop working at just such a dysfunctional moment. However, the girl perfectly understood that with the magic of Jira was all right, because of which she nervously bit her lip. When a man went to her, he slowly held out his hand and asked for a bit of his lips, because he could go so blood. The girl was dumbfounded when Reynag extended his hand to her, because it meant that he certainly sees her. Looking away, the overseer said that he did not want to scare her. He simply noticed how she silently froze in the middle of the corridor. Liana asked how he understood from the back that she was, to which she received an answer, that he simply could not help but recognize her. He understood this in terms of steps and pace. The girl tried to realize how this was generally possible, not believing in what she heard. Then he put his hand on his chest, asking if she was surprised that he sees her even under the spell of invisibility. Liana was nervous, agreeing with him, after which she decided to ask directly how he did. Renag decided to ask in response what the lady does in the basement at such a late hour, also under the spell. The girl pursed her lips, that if she did not receive an answer to her question, then he will also remain unanswered. The man realized what her silence means, after which he said that he sees her, because the matter is in his abilities. The man revealed the secret that everything that is happening in his prison could find out, if only he wishes. However, he cannot use the ability regularly. At this time, he squeezed a bouquet that hid from a girl in a sleeve. He pointed to her bracelet, asked whether her brother gave her this instrument. She decided to lie and answered in the affirmative. Liana realized that she had underestimated him. It seemed to her that only Chasera was worth being afraid, but Renag was just as good. The girl added that she told her brother that she wanted some magic item, so he sent her this bracelet. Passing by her, the man accepted the explanation, surprises the girl with the fact that everything was without any interrogation. Then he turned around, and with a serious expression on his face, said that such items were banned in prison, but he would close his eyes to this. All because his brother asked her to give freedom of action, because of which he was not entitled to go against her will, so that she would not do. And therefore, he personally wants her to do everything that she likes, not worried about punishment or even worse. The girl was dumbfounded when he said that if she wants to take a walk at night again, he could accompany her. Having extended his hand, the overseer added that it would be better if she does not cancel the action of magic right now. The two of them began to pass by the guard, which only a man noticed, and they did not even pay attention to the vine. Renag no longer asked the reason for her sortie, so she decided not to specify the question of how he recognized her. Suddenly, the overseer said that if she was tired, he may not come for breakfast. He will ask him to bring him to the camera. Liana immediately remembered that it was in this body that she had a heart attack, so she thanked him. Renag asked not to worry about those who talk about her privilege in a bad light. He will make them be silent. In response, the girl only smiled at him, but inside she was very scared. But she tried not to show a look. Suddenly, she decided to ask why he cares about her so much. For some time the man was silent, pondering the question. He remembered how, in a distant childhood, he constantly watched Liana, but always hesitate to approach and speak. He thought that he simply wanted her. At least once looking at him, she smiled, but it never was. However, he replied aloud that he simply because he wanted. Such an answer was surprised by the girl, but he would not say more. She asked if he would allow her to visit her a dungeon. He replied that she would never get tired of playing with him. With an indifferent expression on her face, Renag said that he heard that she humiliated him, threw the ball, and forced to bring it. The girl smiled, trying to understand how he was only able to perceive the games with Dorian in such a rigid context. The man took a step forward, after which he stated that he would give her permission to enter the dungeon when she wanted. But in return, he asked if she could spend as much time with him as he spends with the prisoner. When the day came, Liana literally dozed in an armchair, when suddenly the Pilatus and Sally halted her once again. They asked why she was pecking her nose, and during the meal looked rather tired. They decided that she was ill. The man said that if you look like this, it looks more like that she was deeply saddened, possibly because of her brother. Liana dismissed a smile, answering negatively and explaining that she simply did not get enough sleep that night. She forgot about her brother and answered him again, although quite a lot of time has passed. In addition, today it was noisy, and people said that the Banton Museum of Arts was blown up today. Others said that the newspaper writes that the head of the house is seriously wounded, and that perhaps he would not survive. Liana is surprised. Although the family Dormalite is not the best in the plot, but one of the two patrons of the empire. Can it be that this is the work of his son Chaser? They seem to be in good relations, so everything is possible. Suddenly, the guy closed his mouth to the one who said this, explaining that the followers of the Black Roses could hear him. The frightened guy added that they should not provoke them, otherwise the next bomb will certainly appear next to him. Rising from her seat, Liana thought that if the current chapter would die, all power would cross Chaser. The followers of Kamiser are the same as their idol, crazy, and sometimes they subjugate riots without knowing. It seems that of all people, only she does not care about all this, so she decided not to listen to unpleasant news anymore. This place is very far from the capital, so, one might say, in the Polish safety from its passions. Liana thought so, until something happened to her. But no one could expect that this would happen. When Liana came to the Dorian camera, she met the senior knight Reuben, who was glad to meet her. The girl was unhappy, thought that it seemed he knew that she would come. Probably. Renag sent him to look. He said that he was ordered to fulfill any of her whims. Then he asked what she would like at the moment. Liana replied that she wanted to take a walk to the prisoner, after which 2 guards brought Dorian from the camera. The guy looked at Reuben all the time, although I don't know that this is a senior knight, but his strength seems to feel him. Being outside, Liana took his hand and asked not to be nervous, because no one would do any harm to him. Although it is obvious that for him, a new guard is a new number of prohibitions, so such a reaction is not surprising. When they sat down on the bench, the girl asked the guard, could not deliver him alone for a short while. When the knight moved away, the girl thought that, from such a distance, they would definitely not hear them, so you can communicate. She worried about Dorian whether he was in order. He nodded, answered with an indifferent look that everything was fine. The girl decided to support the conversation that the weather was pleasant today, but the guy said that he was not about that. Grabbing her sleeve, Dorian specified that he was good now, because she is nearby, but he does not need more. Liana did not expect to hear such speeches from Dorian, but hearing this was quite pleasant and flattering. The day foreshadowed a walk without incidents. It seemed to her that it would be so, but someone made his way to the prison. When there was a deafening explosion, one of the knights shouted that hear the bomb, forcing the girl to turn around. The person who got a job said that the family Dormalit is passing on greetings and a long life of Chaser. While he shouted that Mr. Chaser would be captured by the whole world soon, Liana first thought that she needed to run. The knights immediately ordered the prisoners to immediately leave, indicating them to retreat. They obeyed. Liana, together with Dorian, hid behind a tree nearby, deciding that they would be safe here. Not far from themselves, they heard the loud laughter of the demolition, because of which the girl began to worry that they would be found. Suddenly, holding the guy's hand, she realized that he had changed right now, and another guy was already looking at her. Clutching him to her chest, Liana heard that the bomb was no longer found, so the knights should catch the criminal. At that very moment, they announced that the underground prisoner had disappeared. Most likely, hid somewhere, and you need to find it. Liana thought displeasedly that things were bad, although now they are now out of danger from the new explosion. However, they are not out of the danger that Dorian can see this, and this promises huge problems for him. Suddenly, the guy asked. She was Liana, not the mistress, after which he pressed himself against her, saying that she was very warm. At heart, she shouted loudly that he could not be tactful, especially being in such a danger. Liana tried to understand what caused his growth. Soon the guard would find them, and then they will see him like that. Brands on her? He asked. Was she really not glad to see him? The girl replied that now is not the time to talk about such. The first thing the guards will think about when finding them is that it is involved in the changes in it, and it will not end in anything good. Suddenly, Dorian touched her lips with his thumb, saying that if she bites her lips so much, she will begin to hurt. The guy with a smile added that it was tested on personal experience, after which he offered to bite her himself and help. With a dissatisfied look, the girl removed his hand and stated that it was not worth it, that Dorian did not really like it. Then he put her hand to his cheek. Thanks if she likes to touch him. He is very good when she does so. When asked when she still touched him, Dorian replied that when he brought her a ball that she had thrown. He added that she touched him in a similar way. In response to this, Liana said that it would be better if he was silent now. Suddenly, the guy asked if his lips could not bite something about the hand. The excited girl replied that it was also impossible. Suddenly, they heard two knights who were not far from them, saying that the noise came from there. At that very moment, Doriana, unhappy, asked if she had forgotten how to beat him. Do not pay attention to the guards. Liana was surprised that this version also has memories from the bestial form, after which she pulled Dorian. The girl asked her body as a whisper as much as possible. He wanted to lie on her knees. Without thinking twice, Liana did not agree. But the guy was surprised how simply he did it, and immediately lay down. Sitting under a tree, the girl listened as the guard rushed back and forth, waiting for them to find them. Suddenly, Reuben found them, and Liana said that everything is fine with her now, only a little shocked by the explosion. But the prisoner is unhealthy, he has a fever. The girl mentally thanked him that he returned to the true form. Looking at the prisoner with surprise, the man said that he was glad that they were both conditional. Reuben invited them to return. At the same time, the girl finally looked at the guy sleeping on her knees. Liana ran to her camera, panting, after which she began to remember what happened to Dorian. She could not believe that he grew up at that moment, and even remembered what was in the bestial appearance. As a result, now Dorian was locked again, and she was kicked out of the dungeon until he settles in conflict with the demolition. The girl wanted cold water, and as soon as she got drunk, she sighed rather, thinking that now you can live on. They say that pain is irritation of the nerve endings, but it is not clear how the growth magic works, and how it works. The question was brewing why Dorian was painful. You need to seriously think about it, because this is its direct duty. After all, it was she who awakened this magic in him, albeit with the help of Jira. But all this was made by her hands. This time, she definitely needs to meet with Yer in order to find out in detail and beg information from him. Approaching the table, she was surprised to find a letter that was not here in the morning. Perhaps his brother sent him. At that very moment, she remembered that she had asked him to tell about the family, and it seemed she had a long-awaited answer. The content of the letter was extremely brief. There the brother asked his beloved sister only about who was boring her. It was written as if he was angry, but it is strange, because she did not give the slightest reason for this. Reading the letter, Liana still could not understand why he was angry, and because she did not ask anything like that. Perhaps she is mistaken, but this brevity was straining, and usually the letter from her brother is full of welcome words. Putting him on the table, the girl even suggested that it wasn't he wrote, and now she tried to understand what the problem was. She just asked about the family, so it is not clear why to be angry because of a simple, innocent question. But she does not think that she is mistaken about anger, because there is a feeling that something is missing, and the puzzle does not converge. Brother, letter, family. She cannot build a connection. Now it would be important for her to at least find out her surname. Having headed for her bunk, she thought that there was no sense in so many experiences, and you need to rest a little. She wanted to write a response later, but in the end, she completely forgot about it and did not answer. The next day, she was called to the overseer, because of which Liana once again stunned at the set table. Looking at her, the completely calm Renag asked what she would like to answer today, waiting for an answer. When asked what this is, the man replied that it was desserts. The girl saw it perfectly, but did not understand why. She did not understand what such an event was, to which Renag replied that he was waiting for her, but it only scared the girl. He asked what she would like, adding that if this is not here, she may not be shy, and ask. They will bring everything to her. With an awkward smile, she replied that she had enough cake and sherbet, but decided to find out in honor of which all this was arranged. The overseer answered, because she promised, said that she would spend as much time with him as with Dorian. Smiling, the The man added that it would be a big omission to spend these minutes not on something special. Liana looked at him with undisguised surprise, remembering that she looked at Dorian this morning briefly. But due to the fact that he was an animal guise, they could not talk normally, so she had to leave. Liana at least found out that Dorian is in order, but she wanted to ask him about something important, but it did not work. She was sorry that this could not be done, and at the same time it was strange that she decided to talk about it only now. But there were always a lot of scars on the body of Dorian. She thought that they were all remained from their father's beatings. And only after a while, she found out that one of the guards beat him. They said that he had to be beaten so that he would become a man. This guy sincerely did not understand that there was a lot of problems in beating. Because of this, many problems arose in the girl's head. Suddenly, Renag asked if she was thinking about sherbet, after which he said that he was delicious and began to feed her from a spoon. The girl was surprised by this behavior, after which she asked if he also wanted to try the strawberries. Renag leaned over, and Liana put the fork in his mouth, after which the picture of what was happening began to reach her. The next second, she shuddered and asked loudly, because she was a little carried away in her actions. In turn, the man wiped his mouth with a handkerchief, answering that he does not know at all why she apologizes. But he was not opposed. After all, if it is she, he will forgive everything without an apology. Such words caused another shock on the face of Liana. Having a look, she thought that she would not get used to him in any way, although she communicated with him for a long time. She promised Renaga to spend as much time with him as with Dorian, but now she was uncomfortable. As a result, she cannot look into his eyes without fear, although she understands that this person cannot do anything to her. But she knows how cruel this man can be in a fit of anger, as she remembered him very well from the novel. She slightly strained, thinking that the main thing is not to cross his road. Only then, everything will be fine with her. The overseer was surprised by her behavior, after which he asked if she liked to spend time with him alone. Liana realized in shock that all her anxiety was expressed on her face, so she decided to relax a bit. Smiling, she answered negatively. Although she screamed in the depths of herself that everything was so, she was very scared. She explained that he helped her so much, because of which she feels gratitude, so she was glad to spend time with him. Smiling, he asked if she liked the food. She replied with a satisfied look that she had tried the entire assortment. The man understood everything, after which he asked to eat, yet before that, she did not have the opportunity to eat such dishes. Then he apologized, because he knows that she does not like to talk about her past, despite the fact that they did not see each other. However, he heard a lot about her, after which he asked if she realized that their relationship is very beneficial to both of them. Liana did not understand whether he was talking about relations between families, after which she asked what exactly he heard about her. It was worth saying that she did not remember anything, and not to try to pretend to be knowledgeable. Then there would be no problems. Then the girl decided now to adhere to this, after which the overseer again turned to her. He stated that, it seems, the date of her release will soon become famous. This news shocked inside the girl. The smile immediately disappeared from her face when she decided to clarify what he meant by her release. Renag recalled that he had already said that she would soon be taken from prison. Liana, in shock, asked if it was possible. Looking at her expression, the man asked if she was not glad. She replied that she was here because she had committed a crime. Not having time to finish, she shuddered when the man knocked on the table, asking if she thought so all this time. Out of two hands, Renag said loudly that she was not to blame for anything. These words were dumbfounded by the girl. The man shouted that she was not a criminal. Liana looked at him in surprise, not able to understand this. The girl said that it was a prison, after which she asked why she was here if she did not violate any laws. Renag replied that the reason is different. We can say that it is categorically different from other offenders. Frowning, and she decided to find out the true reason why she was here. Renag thought before answering. The man calmed down a little, after which he said that he knew not so much, but she is here to protect. Outside these walls, there are people who want to harm her, and the brother decided for some time to bury her here. Liana is a girl of noble blood, albeit for protection. How could you send her to the worst place of the empire? Although the conditions here correspond to the nobility, the prison is a prison where a lot was inaccessible to such people. What was on the mind of a person who came up with this venture is unclear, or maybe these were desperate measures. The overseer added that no one other than her brother, who cared about her safety, instructed her to defend her. A little later, sitting in Dorian's cell, Liana considered this conversation, not noticing how the guy went to her. Renag's words were repeated in her head, but for her it was too difficult to understand the true plan. Then she decided to stroke Dorian, asking whether he is a man or an animal, asking him to remove his fangs from her. Suddenly, he froze with a surprised look when the girl apologized and said that today she had nothing to give him to eat. At that very moment, he began to gently bite her hand, while Liana invited him to stop, saying that this was not food. After a couple of seconds, his face became red and the expression changed. Then the girl realized that he had already come to his senses. Dorian apologized, and Liana was unhappy, asked why so, because he should immediately bite her hand. Suddenly, the guy asked whether he could repeat it, because of which the girl immediately shuddered in surprise. Looking at the next change of the guy, she asked herself when he managed to change in such a short time. She asked why he came. He answered because she called him, and he could not afford not to appear. Suddenly, Dorian was sad, asked why she avoids him, and whether he hates him, saying such things. Liana replied that now, in order to go for a walk, you need to wait until it enters another state. Then she asked why he had changed. Dorian replied that she did not know, because everything was happening. You just have to think about her. The guy asked why she avoids visual contact, because he does not like it, and she has very beautiful eyes. The girl abruptly removed his hand, asking not to come closer, otherwise she will use the magic of invisibility. Dorian replied that he understood everything, after which he took a curl of her hair, asking him to allow to ask another question. He was wondering why, when she came before, she immediately turned and left, without saying a single word to him. Liana was surprised that he remembered this, although then it was in animal guise, and did not want to contact her. She, in shock, asked if he knew all their conversations that were with other guises. He answered affirmatively. Dorian explained that no matter what kind of form was, he is he, after which he slowly inhaled the aroma of her hair. Suddenly he smiled, and asked which of the appearance she likes the most. Liana was surprised at this issue. She looked at him with a surprised look. I don't know what to answer, while the guy said that he was always interested. Liana said displeasedly that she would not answer the question, and Dorian asked what the question she wanted to ask him. Without wasting time, the girl asked if he knew Jira when he heard this name. The guy's eyes expanded for a moment. He replied that since she did not answer his question, for the answer to this, he wants to get something from her in return. Closing her eyes, the girl agreed to give an answer to his question. I will explain that she likes the first appearance more. At that very moment, she was announced that the time of the meal, with displeasure turned around, she announced that she would return later. She wondered why right now, when suddenly the guy grabbed her hand, asking if she was promising. Liana, with a surprised look, asked him to keep her promise. Then she would return every time she promises him. Dorian agreed, after which he released her hand, watching the girl hastily heading for the exit from the camera. At that very moment, the guy put his hand, which he held the girl to his mouth, saying that she was obliged to return. A little later, Renag apologized to her for suddenly calling her again. She replied that nothing was wrong. The man suggested that she was probably very dumbfounded when she was in this place. Perhaps she already understood why he did not show before her then. He had in mind the first days of her conclusion. Liana suggested that this was in order to let her adapt calmly. The man immediately agreed with her. The girl asked if he often received such requests to weaken the conditions of detention. Renag nodded. Now Liana was nervous, thinking that the families of Renaga and Liana are much closer than she could imagine. It was certainly necessary to find out. Then she said that she treated her as if she were a duchess. Having lowered his head, the overseer asked not to exaggerate his contribution, and in the end, she was not a duchess. This was very pleased, because these titles belonged to people from the Henry clan and Dormalite, but he said nothing about it. He said that he did not speak about her family, because he knows how she despises her, and does not want her to hate him. The girl looked at him in surprise, because she did not expect that, in fact, Liana despised her family. At the same moment, the knight came to them and called out Renaga, holding some documents in his hands. But Liana did not listen to them. A couple of minutes later, the girl shuddered when the overseer called her, because of which she asked what happened. With an worried look, Renag replied that her brother suddenly wanted to see her in the near future. Suddenly, the man asked if she was guilty somehow in front of him, but she replied that it seemed to be not there. Suddenly, the realization came to her that she did not answer the letter that she was going to write to him a couple of days ago, and now she was scared, because everything was very bad, because she did not expect that he wanted to meet so quickly. With a serious expression on the face, the overseer said that she needed to meet him as soon as possible. But then, he added that they had problems. But when he saw her interrogative expression, he realized that she knew nothing. Suddenly, he announced that the Duke of Henry would come here soon. Liana did not expect that the news was so serious. The man explained that he would come to a member of his family, which is now imprisoned in the underground parts of the prison. It was about Dorian. The tension was immediately lucky in the air, while the girl realized that very soon Dorian would be hit. She did not even imagine what would happen if they learn about his abilities and see him in a grown form. The state of affairs can be even worse than now, so it was decided to urgently meet with Grrrr. Renag asked if she was restless, adding that this was justified, because after undermining, they need to be careful. Remembering the recent events, the girl thought that her devoted to she's her brother should not appear here now. Other followers are now active in a bad sense, even arranged a subversive act, worsening the reputation of Kamiser. In the fantasies of Liana, Dorian's father literally killed everyone, as a friend thought that her brother could also kill. When asked when the Duke arrives, the man with a surprised look replied that somewhere for 4 days. However, at the same time, her brother will arrive. They have similar paths. Liana realized that they could cross at any moment. In prison, no one is allowed to make noise, so if something happens, His Majesty will understand. The worried girl asked if they could expand her brother until he arrived, but Renag did not know this. He doubts that her brother will listen to him, and he is already on the way. The letter will not work out in any case. They will not be able to contact him until he gets to here, so they have no choice but to wait. But then the overseer politely asked her not to get involved if there was any conflict between families. Liana thanked him for anxiety, to which Renag replied that, in the end, they were not strangers to each other. The girl did not understand what he was talking about, after which she got up from her seat, saying that since they had discussed everything, she would go. Suddenly, Renag came close to her, asking not to forget that he was always there and was ready to help her at any moment. 2 days later, Liana realized that the task of meeting Grrrr was much more complicated than she expected. Approaching the guard, the girl asked if she could somehow meet with the prisoner from the eastern wing. They answered negatively, and Liana thought that there was not much time left, just some 2 days. At this pace, she will not be able to help Dorian. But you can't give up, and you need to urgently come up with something. Then she stated that she wanted to go down to the underground part of the prison, immediately offered to lead her to the place. Walking along the corridor, the guard apologized to Liana, scaredly asking if she was against it on her own. He was sure that nothing would happen to her along the road. Surprised by such a proposal, the girl immediately agreed. Having walked ahead a little, the girl heard some steps not far from herself, but she never noticed anyone.